It's 11:52 p.m. in a gas station, and your debit card just got rejected for a $4 coffee. The cashier gives you that look, the one that says you're holding up his whole night. You mutter something apologetic and start digging through your wallet for spare change. And that's when your eyes catch it, a crumpled ticket wedged in the corner, bought on a whim 11 days earlier because the jackpot number on the roadside sign made you snort with laughter. $600 million. You remember thinking, someone's going to win that, and it definitely won't be me. You pull it out only to toss it in the trash. But something makes you pause, an itch you can't quite name. Instead of throwing it away, you pull up the numbers on your phone. The first digit lines up, and your hand freezes. The second lines up, and your chest tightens. By the fifth match, you've stopped breathing entirely. You're standing under buzzing gas station lights holding a slip of paper worth more than 3 generations of your family ever earned combined, and not one person on the planet knows it yet. Not your mom, not your closest friend, not the guy 3 feet away ringing up someone's pack of cigarettes. You have 60 seconds to make the biggest decision of your existence. You slide the ticket back into your wallet. You pay for the coffee in nickels and dimes. You walk out into the parking lot feeling like a stranger has just slipped into your skin. You tell absolutely no one. That single choice becomes the founding law of everything that follows, even though you don't recognize it as a law yet. Standing there under that fluorescent glow, you just know on instinct that the second this gets out, you cease to exist as yourself. You become a target, a sob story, a walking ATM, a tabloid headline. So you make up your mind to vanish before anyone even notices you're missing. The following morning, you drive 4 hours across a state line to file the claim. You'd already spent the previous night wide awake until 4 a.m., 15 browser tabs deep, absorbing terms like anonymity statutes, revocable trusts, and single-member LLCs. You establish an entity with a name that carries 0 personal meaning, something you'll call the Horizon Fund. You're not its public face, you're the silhouette standing behind it. The claims office feels sterile, hushed, almost clinical in its intensity. A woman in a charcoal blazer scans your ticket, then scans it again. Her eyebrow twitches upward the instant the system confirms the number, and that flicker is your first proof that your existence has just shifted into an entirely different category. They offer you the choice between annual payments or a single lump sum. You already know your answer. Lump sum. Roughly $314 million after taxes take their bite. Your hand trembles as you sign 4 separate forms. When you step back outside, you're technically, legally, on paper, the exact same broke 29-year-old who drove in that morning. That's the entire strategy. Stay unchanged on the surface while becoming an entirely different person beneath it. That night, back in your apartment, you slide down onto the floor with your spine against the couch and laugh until tears come. Then the tears keep falling long after the laughter stops, morphing into something closer to dread than joy. Because now you're carrying knowledge nobody else has, and that kind of knowledge has mass. It presses behind your ribs like an extra pulse. For the first week, nothing outwardly changes. You still clock in at the hardware store, still stack shelves, still eat instant noodles on Tuesday nights. You still lend your roommate a 20 for gas, fully aware you could buy him a brand new car outright and never feel the dent in your account. You hand him that bill like it's the only cash left in your pocket. That's when the first rule of concealed wealth sinks in. The act never pauses. Not for a single hour. Every conversation turns into a small performance, and you're simultaneously the only actor and the only audience aware it's fake. You start relocating funds with the patience of a surgeon making an incision. You retain a wealth attorney through a distant referral chain, someone with 0 ties to your actual life, based in a city you've never set foot in. You feed him half-truths. He doesn't require your real identity attached to anything, only your signature on paperwork engineered to keep your name invisible. 3 weeks later, you resign from your job, citing a better opportunity out of state. Nobody probes further. Ordinary explanations rarely invite scrutiny. You relocate to a mid-sized city where your face means nothing to anyone. leasing a modest two-bedroom under a corporate identity, driving a 4-year-old car purchased in cash through the trust rather than under your own name. On paper, in every observable way, you're painfully average. Meanwhile, underneath, the machinery hums along constantly. The trust funnels money into index funds, municipal bonds, and a spread-out real estate portfolio hidden behind shell companies across 3 different states. Your net worth now dwarfs the mayor's salary of your new hometown, exceeds most local businesses combined, yet you're still eating gas station hoagies for lunch. Because nothing draws less attention than a gas station hoagie. This is where the psychological toll truly kicks in. You start noticing things you never registered before, the way eyes drift toward parked cars, the way a stranger's gaze snags on an expensive wristwatch. You finally understand on a gut level why people bury their wealth. Because visible money instantly becomes something others feel entitled to claim a piece of. Your mother crosses your mind constantly. You imagine calling her, confessing everything, watching relief flood her face because her mortgage stress would simply vanish. Instead, you quietly draft trust paperwork to pay it off anonymously, funneled through a fabricated grant program your attorney invents. 2 months later, she receives a letter stating her remaining balance was cleared by an anonymous donor through a regional homeowner relief fund. She phones you in tears. You feign shock on the call. You despise how effortlessly you've learned to deceive the people you love most. That's the true price, not the wealth itself, but the widening gap it carves between you and everyone else. Every friendship starts to feel like a role you're contractually obligated to keep playing. You watch your closest friends scrape together rent money, knowing you could solve it instantly with one transfer, and you don't. Because the second you do, the whole illusion collapses, and once that thread unravels, there's no stuffing it back into the bag. You begin to grasp that this kind of fortune isn't liberation. It's confinement with velvet-lined walls. 4 months into this new existence, you slip up for the first time. You're out at a bar with people from your adopted city, none of whom know a thing about your past. Someone jokes about how they'd blow through $100 million if they won the lottery. You laugh along, and then, 2 drinks deep and worn thin from months of isolation, you say something reckless. I'd never breathe a word of it to anyone. Something in your tone makes a woman named Reagan, sharp-eyed and mostly silent all evening, hold your gaze a beat too long. That's oddly specific, she remarks. You brush it off with a laugh and steer the conversation elsewhere, but you drive home with your pulse hammering, replaying that sentence on loop, wondering if you just handed someone a loose thread worth tugging. That's the moment it clicks. The truth doesn't need to be spoken aloud to become a liability. A glance, an inflection, one sentence delivered with too much certainty can do the damage. You start respecting, for the first time, how perceptive people can be once you actually have something worth hiding. You stop drinking around anyone you don't trust completely. Without fully meaning to, you construct a secondary persona, a slightly duller, more forgettable version of yourself who never says anything memorable enough to be repeated later. 6 months in, the money finally behaves the way money is supposed to. The trust's holdings are now generating close to $40,000 daily in passive income. $40,000 a day. You sit with that figure sometimes at 2 in the morning and it refuses to feel real. Because you're still living among secondhand furniture in a 2-bedroom rental, still scanning price tags at the grocery store out of 11 years of ingrained habit. A new kind of loneliness starts taking shape. Not the absence of people, but the absence of anyone who truly knows you. Every relationship you build now exists downstream of a lie, and you begin wondering if the version of you people are drawn to is even real, or just a costume constructed to shield $300 million. Then Reagan calls. Not about the money, about something unrelated entirely, a mutual friend's birthday celebration. But the second her name lights up your screen, your stomach drops, the way it does when a patrol car tucks in behind you on the highway, guilty or not. You show up to the party anyway. She catches you alone near the kitchen, relaxed, smiling, and says, "So I did some digging. There's an unclaimed jackpot from a neighboring state, filed anonymously through a trust, right around when you moved to town." Your entire body goes ice cold. People set those up constantly, you say, your voice landing steadier than you feel. Sure, she shrugs. Just thought it was funny. She drops it, but you can't. You spend the next 3 weeks in a simmering panic, auditing every filing your attorney submitted, hunting for any strand of public record that could lead back to your real name. You find with dizzying relief that the paperwork is airtight. Nothing ties the trust to you. Reagan was fishing, a sharp, dangerous cast, but a cast nonetheless. This is the point where you understand something you didn't grasp at the gas station 8 months earlier. Secrecy isn't a one-time decision. It's a daily discipline you have to maintain for the rest of your life. Because one careless remark, one unnecessary flex, one moment of craving recognition for what you truly possess could unravel everything you built to safeguard it. After that scare, you start making calculated moves. You purchase a small, multifamily property through the trust and lease the units at fair market rates, generating income that appears completely mundane on your modest personal tax filing, since the trust files separately and pays you a small, unremarkable consulting wage that keeps your visible existence exactly as unremarkable as it needs to stay. You take on a real job again, a low-pressure project manager role at a small company because a jobless, 29-year-old with no visible income invites more questions than an employed one. You get good at it. You even start liking it, oddly enough, the mundane rhythm of clocking in, griping about meetings, packing your own lunch, all while your fortune silently multiplies behind a wall nobody can see. A year slips by. You've cleared your mother's mortgage, covered your sister's tuition through another untraceable channel, and quietly established college funds for your niece and nephew, structured to stay hidden for at least a decade until they turn 18. From the outside, your life reads as someone who's doing okay. Not wealthy, just okay. Internally, you carry the full, suffocating weight of knowing you could transform 10 lives overnight with a single signature and you choose not to. Because the very discipline safeguarding the fortune is the same discipline that keeps you permanently unknowable to anyone else. You start to understand why people with real money retreat into privacy the way you have. It isn't ego, it's self-preservation. The instant the number becomes public knowledge, you stop being a human being and start being a resource everyone around you feels entitled to bargain with. 18 months in, you meet someone. Genuine feelings, the kind you haven't allowed yourself since that gas station night. 4 months into knowing her, a question begins gnawing at you every single evening. Do you tell her the truth? Or do you let it fade into the same silence as everything else, guarded, distant, buried? The version of you that existed before that ticket would have spilled the whole story by the second date, laughing, giddy, careless. This version sits across the table from her at dinner, listening to her recap her day, quietly weighing whether she's someone this secret could survive being shared with. You still haven't landed on an answer. You run the calculations every night before sleep takes you, weighing the risk against the loneliness, the fear against the possibility, and there's no tidy resolution because one doesn't exist. It's the same question from that gas station parking lot, just wearing a different face now, one with a heartbeat and something that might actually be love. So here's what you have to sit with because there's no one left to ask without changing everything. If you were sitting on $300 million and someone you genuinely loved was across the table tonight, completely in the dark, would you finally tell them the truth? Or would you let the silence keep protecting you for just one more year?